episode number 23 in Creative Love Radio. We're going to help you answer the question, are you dating or in a relationship with a narcissist? We're going to bust some myths in the pop culture, and we're also going to show you what a narcissist means when it relates to Jungian psychology and how we look at it in a new way. So stay tuned. Welcome to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. We are redefining relationships to guide you to greater love, more success, and living your purpose through the latest research in neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Eastern wisdom. Get ready for another inspirational episode of Creative Love Radio. Hello, welcome. Hi, Rob. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Your voice sounds better than mine. Just to let you know, I have a head cold, and so my voice is a little raspy, so you'll have to forgive me, but I promise that wisdom will still come through my lips.
Yeah, it's good rock and roll voice. You could be a rock and roll singer right now.
I could. So let's talk about this idea. Every time I'm on Facebook or I'm on one of the blog posts or on the internet, I often see these articles that say the 10 signs that you're with a narcissist or the red flags that you need to look for when you're dating a narcissist. And then we also get a lot of questions when we do our calls and our webinars of stories of people saying, well, my ex was a narcissist, and how do I stop attracting narcissists? So I told you, Rob, let's do a call on this because this word is in the pop culture, and it's really misunderstood in a lot of ways. And we wanted to basically clear the air and help you understand it more so you know when you're giving out that label what you're really talking about from a psychological standpoint.
Right. We're either going to clear it up or create more confusion. But either way,
we're going to try. It's
an interesting concept.
Yes.
Right. So what it is, this label, and this is from the American Psychiatric Association. It's called an Axis 2 diagnosis. So an Axis 1 is the primary reason you're going to a shrink or a psychologist and getting therapy or getting diagnosis. So that would be like major depression, anxiety, phobia, anything like that. Axis 2 are considered long-term, pervasive problems that have to do more with the physiology and the state of the person. That is, you're not really going to treat them in the short term because they are long-standing and they're more part of the character of the person. And certainly the personality disorders in general fall into that category, Axis 2 problems. Now, narcissistic personality disorder, and it requires a lot of assessment to really get the diagnosis.
So no checklist in Cosmo to figure it out?
Well, some people use a checklist. It'll go by the DSM V, and they'll just read off the list. And if the client or the patient meets all the criteria, they go ahead with that. But if you're really doing it correctly, you're having the person take a personality assessment, meaning a whole battery of tests that confirm your hunch that this is going on. So it's not done lightly. It's not done like flippantly and saying, oh, you're narcissistic, right? So
for a layman, if you look at that list, when we talk about in Jungian psychology about projection and this idea that we assume certain things about people based on what we believe they're doing. So when the person doesn't call back or doesn't act interested or doesn't do nice things for you, you may think they're narcissistic or self-centered or they're cheating on you all the time or they're always talking about themselves. And we basically do the armchair diagnosis of, oh, this sounds like they're that way, when it could just be our perception as well. That's why it's really important to be careful when you use that word.
Absolutely. So let me read a couple of the items on the DSM-5,
okay.
and then
we'll all assess if we're a narcissist.
Right. Well, consider, do you have any of these qualities. Now, not to self-diagnose, obviously. This is not about diagnosing or treatment or anything. But to think about when you use that term, are you using it appropriately? And, we'll talk about it on the other hand.
Okay.
Let's see. Number 1, has a grandiose sense of self-importance, exaggerates achievements and talents, expects to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements. In other words, I really haven't done anything, but I expect people to recognize my greatness. Number 2, is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, and ideal love. Number 3, believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. Number 4, requires excessive admiration.
Oh, that's me.
We all need that.
Yeah.
Number 5, has a sense of entitlement, unreasonable expectations of specially favorable treatment, or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. Number 6, is interpersonally exploitive. For example, takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends. 7, lacks empathy, is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. Number 8, is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of him or her. And finally, number 9, shows arrogant, haughty behavior or attitudes. Now, like it says in the Bible, he that is without sin, let him throw the first stone.
Yes.
We all have some of these qualities or
moments when we feel that way.
Or have exhibited these behaviors at some point in our life. The defining characteristic in clinical psychology and psychiatry is that this is a fixed approach to life.
Like a rigidness to it where they can't really change. They're not open to feedback and change. And I think a lot of people, most of us are maybe resistant to hear feedback in some ways, but we're still open and we're still willing to hear in a certain extent, where someone with a disorder is basically not just projecting and not really willing to take responsibility.
Yeah. And as far as prevalence, that is, how many people out there have the actual disorder? It's hard to say. Depends on what source you read.
So it's not as prevalent as we think it is.
No. And also that a lot of people might have some traits, some characteristics that fit this pattern, but they don't meet the full-blown criteria. It's
sort of like a scale, like you said, where a spectrum. So we all have all these traits that are of humanity. We have traits of anger and boastiness and insecurity and all those things. They're a part of being human. And then for some of us, the certain traits are more extreme than others. And that's really when we go over the line of normal, that's where where it becomes a pathology or dysfunction. But like you said, most people don't fall over that. And so when you're in a relationship with someone and maybe they act a little selfishly, or you feel that they didn't have your feelings taken. They didn't. Why didn't he call me and tell me? They hurt my feelings, or it felt like they were cold or not caring.
Right.
We tend to sometimes wonder maybe they're a narcissist because of their behavior, our perception of that, when it could just have been a moment. And the thing is, unless you're in a long-term relationship and your partner had been clinically diagnosed and you're working with a therapist and they're saying, yes, this is definitely a hard issue, we really have to remember that when we see people, we see glimpses of them in moments, and we don't see the whole person, and we tend to make snap judgments over them based on how they interacted with us. And if they were pleasing to us, we tend to have a favorable opinion of the person. And if they're displeasing to us, we tend to see the worst in that person, even if we just see them for that moment just in the grocery store or passing in exchange on a customer service line. We make a whole decision on a whole person in just a small amount of time. And in dating too, you maybe go out with one person, or you're texting back and forth with someone, and immediately you judge them and you wrap them up in this label that they have. And it really is unfair, because we really don't see the whole person, and we make these judgments that are basically on someone might not be having a good day. Or,
we're diagnosing people left and right. And it's a pretty harsh judgment to make. So the bottom line is, be careful when you throw these words around, these labels. They are pretty harsh, and we shouldn't label people to begin with.
Yes.
And deal with them more in a humane way, right? Mm-hmm. We're all individuals. We all have faults. We all deserve kind of a hearing, let's say, and an open mind. Mm-hmm. And people change.
Yeah.
People work through situations and things. Now, when a person really does have the disorder, also, we should consider that they need help.
Yes.
If we're saying they're narcissistic, that means they have a kind of a disability that is impeding their ability to empathize with others.
And by you judging them and pushing them away, I always say it's kind of like if someone has a physical disability, say they're in a wheelchair and they can't walk, you don't yell at them and say, you should walk, you should be able to walk, you're making my life so difficult. No, we have empathy for those people. But when it's an internal dysfunction that we can't see, and we tend to be harsher on people, we tend to think they should be normal, when people, that's why we have this DSM 4. There are people that are not normal. Or DSM 5 now. I guess it was DSM 4 when I first started out. But yeah, it's why we have it, because there are people that need serious help. And just like what we always say with our work as a coach, that we're not here to pathologize or to label people with dysfunctions. Coaching is really meant to work with people who are high functioning, who are normal people, and we're taking them to their potential. So narcissist is one of them, but we all tend to have these labels thrown around at us that something's wrong with us, that we're wounded, or where we have childhood wounds and we need to fix something within ourselves. And I think the world will be a better place if we all start thinking of ourselves as just being human, and we all have faults and we all have really great benefits, and to have that compassion for each other, that we're all trying to do our best. And the ones that aren't are really, they don't have the capacity to do that.
Right. So we know in popular culture, science writers, sometimes coaches, sometimes psychologists, they write these books, and their intentions are good. Their aim is to perhaps educate the public as to these particular phenomena and how it plays out in relationships. So they're trying to help people, but again, once you put it out in the popular culture, you never know how people are going to misuse it. Yeah. And I think that's partly what's been going on with this term, narcissist, that people have taken it and applied it in this very casual way and saying, I was dating a narcissist, or I was married to a narcissist, without really any evidence that this person was really or had a disorder,
or have they been diagnosed. And there are some people out there that are listening that have been in a relationship with someone who had been diagnosed, and that we're not discounting that at all. Sure. We just want to say that it's way too much. So we overdiagnose. And so let's talk about how this applies in Jungian psychology, because as I always say, we attract people like our puzzle pieces, that we fit together like puzzle pieces, I should say, that our piece of the puzzle matches up with someone who complements who we are, and we tend to basically our personality will play off theirs. And so we sometimes attract the opposite of us, of what we call the shadow. So if if the person's persona is a narcissist, let's just say a selfish person, what would be the opposite of a narcissist, or what people term in a pop culture way as a narcissist?
Right. It would be an avoidant personality disorder, or a person that's very completely opposite of what a narcissist is, right?
So you're talking about the disorder. I was just talking about general, but let's go to the disorder first.
Right. This would be using, let's say, the terminology that people are using and when they're talking about narcissistic traits or personalities, right? So the opposite of somebody that's very boisterous and animated and gets their energy from receiving a lot of attention and praise is obviously somebody who doesn't like that and shies away from receiving attention. They're very uncomfortable when they're at the center of attention. That's typically called an avoidant personality. They tend to shy away from situations where they're going to be looked at, heard, or expected to say something and to, let's say, state an opinion. They rather hide and blend in with the environment. Now, obviously, a lot of us have those traits as well.
Yeah, we're not always. We're all afraid of standing and speaking in public.
Yeah,
we all have that fear.
Fear of public speaking is the number one phobia on the planet, probably. So it doesn't mean that you have an avoidant personality disorder, but you might have some traits, right, that move along that scale.
So the more extreme you have that, where it's debilitating.
That's it.
Then you would attract the extreme, the opposite of the narcissistic, in a debilitative form as well. So the more extreme you are, the more extreme they are? Or?
Well, it has to do with balance. So if you think, what would balance me out if I am avoidant? Well, it's somebody that has power to be out there in front in the limelight and craves that.
So you can borrow their energy, basically. You don't have to stand out yourself. You can be associated with that person. Right.
And from the opposite view, from the narcissist view, somebody who is shy and doesn't have that power that I do or that I seek, well, they're easy prey for me because they're going to admire me.
Yeah.
They're going to, give me the spotlight and not take any away from me. And therefore, that's very attractive to them.
There's no competition. And I found, like when I talk about putting people on pedestals, you're talking the person that puts the person on a pedestal, the narcissist, that's a narcissistic type of person would be drawn to that because, wow, they adore me. But at the same time, we think about Jungian psychology, and the deeper part of the mind is that someone who is that boisterous center of attention, needing all that attention and wanting praise all the time is not a really confident person. They appear to be very confident and very self-assured, but they're very, very insecure. And so when I say we fit together like puzzle pieces, the avoidant person is very insecure too. So what happens is your insecurities basically connect to each other and they just express themselves differently. Like one person takes the persona of the boisterous, outgoing center of attention. The other person is the hider. And so you on a surface, it seems fine, but both of you are bound by your own insecurities. And so what makes us, like you said, the middle ground, what would be the solution is to see ourselves, as Jung would say, beyond the persona.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about Jungian psychology is that it's not judging us based on these personas or these personalities, the way we behave and the way we think about ourselves. It's telling us there's a deeper element in you, the true self, that is the real you. The way it's expressed or the way you express your persona, your personality, is simply one aspect of it. And it's, as we see, it's very malleable because people change as they go along in life. They mature, they grow out of phases. They have experiences that change their lives. Mm-hmm. They you know, kind of wakes them up to certain realities. And so it's a more humane way of seeing ourselves instead of the harsh judgment that, oh, he's that way or she's that way, then she'll never change. It's more giving people that benefit of a doubt and saying they're growing, right? They're becoming, and we all have the capacity to become who we really meant to be, our true selves. So from that perspective, narcissistic people and avoidant people would simply be seen as that's simply their mask. Mm-hmm. It's a mask that they're wearing. But if they do their shadow work, if they're willing to look into their own mind and make the unconscious conscious, they'll be fine. They'll be able to work through anything.
I think that we all have that, because I know that for me, there are people I'm more comfortable being more outgoing around, and I like attention and all those things. But then there's also parts of me that can be avoidant around new people, and I'm a little more shy. And so if someone catches me in that moment, a lot of people make judgments of me. They're, oh, Debbie, she's so shy, and I can't imagine her doing like public speaking, right? Because I was
little do they know.
And then my family knows me as like loud and likes to be the center of attention. And so, you meet someone, you don't know how they act around people they know, and they're, more of their natural personality comes out more, especially in dating. I see so many people, and especially because we work with a lot of women, judging the men they're dating or going on with as maybe being boring or not themselves, or on the first date maybe being awkward, and making that's who that person is. And a lot of people just aren't good at dating. They're not really good at, creating this, this surface conversation in the beginning. And they're once you get to know them, they'll be different and they'll be more open. So it's almost as if you have to give people a chance and not make judgments on you. And you've also been on dates where you haven't felt like yourself, or felt a little nervous, or felt intimidated, or whatever, you were late, and you weren't yourself either. You wouldn't want someone to judge you that way too. And I think the whole purpose of this episode today is really that what people show us isn't really who they are. And yes, there are people that fall on the spectrum, that 1% that have a disorder, but most of us are pretty normal. We're normal people. We're functioning, and we're just trying our best. And we get into these personalities that we have worked for us in different environments. And if you judge someone based on just their interaction with you and not the whole person, you really end up pushing people away that might be not even so bad for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess at the end of the day, the whole idea of narcissism, of course, we need those diagnostic labels, but try to leave them to the psychiatrist, to the psychologist, to people that really have that's their job, basically, to diagnose and to really assess people in that way. And don't take it so lightly when you when you read those books about, my ex was a narcissist and how to get back at them or how to avoid them, right? Those kind of popular. I
saw an article the other day that a wounded person or a negative mother, the wounded daughter syndrome, why they attract, and it's like all this stuff. And it just, for me, when I first got into personal development, I got into it because I wanted to create something different in my life. And there's a danger, and this is why we always teach the non-pathology part of personal development, because we can fall into these patterns where there's something broken in us or something from the past that holds us back. And we all have unlimited potential. And if we give so much energy to the past and feel like we've been wounded and hurt, and of course we've all had tough lives, but if we give so much attention to it, we don't have time to really create anything else. We're just stuck in trying to clean up, there's something that never gets to be cleaned up, and a past we can never go back to. And we end up really obsessing over that and being mad at people for what we assume happened. And really, it's just, it brings you down. And so we want to be uplifting. We want you to look at yourself as a possibility, and that nothing in the past is going to dictate your future and your potential for love unless you allow it to.
Yeah, and the way we think about people in our past that have either hurt us or we've hurt them, or we have a history with them, just think of everyone as becoming, as doing their best with the tools that they have and their capabilities at the moment, but that they're on their way to becoming.
And you too, like we all make mistakes. We all have bad days. We all say the wrong things to people.
Me?
No, yeah, you do all the time. But I'm just saying that we have to forgive ourselves.
I don't make any
forgive
mistakes.
Ourselves.
No, that's
well, I do. Me. I know I do. So I'm talking about myself here. I'm not diagnosing you, Rob. But I do feel that we get so hard on ourselves and regret things we've said or should have done things differently. And we have to just remember, too, that we're always doing the best we can. I mean, most people are, unless you're really seriously dysfunctional, most people are doing the best they can with what they know. And if you make that assumption about people, it makes your life a lot better and you feel less of a victim. But so to leave, remember that whatever you're matching up with and the people that are coming into your life and relationships are always mirroring a part of what is inside of you. It's either the opposite that you're suppressing of your persona, or something that's directly a mirror to your persona. And to remember that if you look inside and are able to reclaim those parts of yourself and put yourself back in balance, like where am I out of balance here? You're going to see a different and a change in the type of people you attract.
Well, you made it. Your voice made it through the.
I tried. It's a little raspy, but.
So what are we talking about next time?
I don't know. We'll have to ask our listeners. Please go to Creative Love Community in the Facebook group we have and let us know what you think of this episode, and also tell us what you want us to talk about. We're interested in new topics, and we have some great programs coming in 2018. We have a leadership program for women called Evolve, and there are still some spots open if you're interested. We're doing a money retreat event in January in LA. So lots of great stuff coming for the new year, and just reach out to us, or you can request a free coaching call with one of our coaches and get some information and insight as to how we can help you.
Nice. So thanks for tuning in.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Much love.
Take care. You've been listening to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. For more information, visit us on our website at creativelove.com.